All right, so this one is entitled, Do You Pray Like a Hypocrite? So when you think about prayer, what exactly do you think about? Me, growing up in a Christian church and household, I've always seen prayer as someone literally talking to God. So people pray everywhere these days, like before dinner, going to bed, in church, on social media, over the phone, through text. And it's a lot of things that we listen to our elders, and these are the things they were taught, but a lot of these things have been misunderstood, that I believe. So if you believe different, please give your opinions. So one of the first things I want to say is go back over, and I went over these in the previous videos, in a previous video, excuse me. But when you pray, do you think about it at all, the instructions that Jesus left us for prayer? And I think a lot of people don't even think about these verses, or maybe, read the verses and misunderstood them. But take a look at Matthew 6:5. And when thou prayest, thou shalt not be as the hypocrites are, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and in the corners of the street, that they may be seen of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. So just to look at the word synagogue, that comes from the root word of church, and the root word of church is ecclesia. And this was used by the ancient rabbis translating the Old Testament into Greek to mean synagogue. And this happened long before Jesus was even born. Well, supposedly born, if you believe in the literal sense. So we break down that Jesus is saying to you, when you pray, to not be as a hypocrite, as the hypocrite who prays standing in front of the church and in the corners of the streets. And this next verse, Matthew 6:6, but thou, when thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut the door, pray to thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. And before I get into the meaning of closet, exactly who stands in front of a church and prays, and who stands in the corner of the streets now that it's 2021 and actually prays? And remember, Jesus said this is being a hypocrite. So who is actually being a hypocrite in 2021? So looking into what secret means besides the literal meaning of what a closet is, uh, it is used to refer to a state of secrecy or concealment. So Matthew 6:7, but when ye pray, use not the vain repetitions as the heathen do, for they think they shall be heard for their much speaking. So thinking you shall be heard for speaking while praying is a vain repetition. So before Matthew 6:8, take a look at Matthew 15:8-9. This people draweth nigh unto me with their mouth, and honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. 9, but in vain they do worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. So again, you have Jesus telling you speaking is in vain while you pray. So back to Matthew 6:8. Be not ye therefore like unto them, for your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask of him. So when we pray, do we follow what Jesus said, or do we pray like the hypocrites, just like the hypocrites Jesus talked about? So in Matthew 6:9, before the Lord's Prayer, he says, in this manner, therefore pray ye. And manner is the way in which a thing is done or happens. And someone could easily argue that he is literally says a prayer after that when you're saying the Lord's Prayer. But I see these prayers as symbols. And if you don't see a prayer as a symbol, take a look at Psalms 39. In verse 1, it says, I said, I will take heed to my ways, that I sin not with my tongue. I will keep my mouth with a bridle while the wicked is before me. 2, I was done with silence. I held my peace, even from good, and my sorrow was stirred. In verse 3, my heart was hot within me while I was musing the fire that burned, and then I spoke with my tongue. And in verse 4, it says, Lord, make me to know mine end and the measure of my days, what it is that I may know how frail I am. So he literally starts to speak to God. And please feel free to read through to verse 9 if you don't want to skip to verse 9. But for time, go straight to verse 9. And it says, I was dumb. I opened not my mouth because thou did it. So did he pray or not? You be the judge. Remember back in verse 2, it says, I was done with silence. I held my peace. Take a look at Isaiah 62, 6 and 7. I have set watchmen upon the walls of Jerusalem, which shall never hold their peace day nor night. Ye make mention of the Lord, keep not silence. And in verse 7 it says, and give him no rest till he establish and make Jerusalem a praise in the earth. So if you have not seen Allegory and Parables Part 1 and Part 2, please do. You will understand what Jerusalem means. And it is also important to understand that we are the temples for God. So if you have not taken a look at do we really follow Jesus, please take a look at that also. So understanding that we are the actual temples for God, take a look at Habakkuk 2 and 20. But the Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. Amos 8 and 3. And the songs of the temple shall be howlings in the day, saith the Lord. There shall be many dead bodies in every place. They shall cast them forth with silence. In James 1 and 26. If any man among you seem to be religious, and bridleth not his tongue, but deceiveth his own heart, this man's religion is vain. And the definition of bridleth is to restrain, check, or control with, also to put a harness over a horse's mouth. So in closing, Jesus says, take no thought 5 times in Matthew 6, in verses 25, 27, 28, 31, and 34. And in 27, he also says, who by taking thought can add 1 cubit into his stature. So again, thank you for listening. I love you all. I will put out my next video soon, and I will eventually get to the Abraham and Sarah allegory. Thank you.